Welcome to Sounds of Sud. I'm your host, Jasmine. This podcast is for all the music lovers and anyone that wants to learn more about working in the music industry. Bringing you interesting insights and wild stories from DJs to festival organisers, we talk to all of the people behind the scenes that make the magic happen. So make sure to hit subscribe and I'll see you on the dance floor. Welcome, we start again. Aisha. Welcome, Connor Hart, to Sounds of Sud, the podcast. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for coming over. A different time for me, Tuesday afternoon, but earlier the better. Yeah,
well, thank you for having me here. It's this time works perfectly for me. Tuesday afternoons, that's my best time to do. So it's great to be here.
So good. And you, when we were chatting just before, you said you were coming from the studio. What were you up to today?
Yeah, so I was just working on some things for a new project. Spent probably the last 4 years just chopping and changing, and one day it's making tech house, the next day it's making disco, the next day it's making classic house. So just spent a lot of time in the studio the last 4 years to really kind of nail down what I want to do.
Oh wow.
And I think it's getting there. It's had a very good session today, working with some great people, and yeah, I'm quite excited about what's to come finally after years of, oh, am I going to go this way? Am I going to go that way? I think I've finally got the sound.
Bit of clarity.
Yeah. Which is, been missing for a long time.
That's so cool. That is going to be an interesting topic that we can circle back to. So obviously into production, but also a DJ, how I first found you, based in Sydney. Not Ireland.
Not Ireland. Contrary to many people's beliefs, they realise as soon as I open my mouth. But no, family heritage is from Ireland. It has to be right with the name Connor.
Connor Hart, by the way. I don't think I've introduced you all the way. Yeah, Connor Hart.
Connor Hart. I don't know if I should tell my middle name, but I will
anyway.
Go on. Murphy. Like, it doesn't get more Irish than that. So Connor Murphy Hart. It's it's quite Irish.
I wish not that we would have had any reason to see my reaction on Saturday when I was so shocked. Honestly, I had fully convinced myself, and then I thought, "You are the shittest host. You don't even know where they're from."
As soon as I open my mouth, you're like, "You're not Irish." No. Not that Irish.
I've honestly fully had myself convinced, and then I told the boys as well, who obviously are Irish, and they were like, "Yeah," they could not believe it, and I was like, "Well, I'm telling you, I met him. Like, they're trying to convince me otherwise," and I was like, I literally had a whole conversation with him. It's definitely not Irish.
I must look Irish as well, right?
Yeah, I think so. So. You have got a bit of that look, and also, one of them was saying that you played on a lineup before. Ages ago in the Ivy, but a day party, and it was like pretty much everyone in the lineup was Irish.
Okay.
This was ages and ages ago, because the person he referenced he went with hasn't lived in Sydney for a long time. Maybe like 3 years ago, maybe.
Was it the pool or was it?
Oh, I've got no idea. But anyway, he said there was loads of people in the lineup and you played, and most of them were Irish. And I was like, oh, there you go.
Maybe because there's another Irish guy who we've played on some similar lineups. I don't think we've ever played together, but his name's Connor Thompson, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Maybe it was him, because I only just started playing the Ivy the last, year or so with Above. And then before that was always side room stuff.
Interesting,
or the pool, change room.
Yeah.
So yeah, but maybe we were talking about it before, my memory's not great, so maybe I did have something somewhere along the lines.
Managed to convince you played on a lineup.
Sounds about right.
So good. So, where to begin? So, when did you start DJ? Or, well, tell us a bit about you. You're obviously from Sydney.
Yeah.
As we've established now.
From Sydney, not Cork. From Sydney. So I mean, the story goes back, pretty much to when I was 5. So without going all the way back, we'll try to keep it as short as possible. But my family was very musical. My dad owned a music school when I was growing up. He is a singer in his own rock band, so there's always been that musical influence there. And my mum's, despite not being in the music industry herself, she's, I've got all my music from her essentially, growing up with Luther Vandross, Lionel Richie, Aretha Franklin, all that soul 70s, 80s stuff. So that was very much the influence growing up. So with that, having the music school, playing piano from a young age, wasn't a fan back then, didn't like it at all. Was very much into my sport and rugby league. And
do you play piano now?
I've just come back to it.
Oh, how exciting.
I've just come back to it.
Piano.
So it was kind of like started music young, always loved music, but kind of went away from it a little bit, chased sport. And then I think I got to kind of 15, 16 and started losing a bit of interest in sport. And I was like, well, you know, people started finding the fact I could play piano cool. So I was like, oh, I might tap into this a little bit more. So I went that way. Still was kind of doing a bit of sport in the background, but as I said, it wasn't something that I was looking to pursue anymore. And then once I'd fully finished with sport, I was like, all right, I'm 19 now. What should I do as a hobby? And, you know, I loved playing piano, but I figured, you know, I'm not going to go do piano recitals, really. And I didn't love it that much. So I was like, what else is there? And started DJing, which, you know, all kind of tied in with different forms of timing. You know, it was going to Defected in 2019 and...
Like Defected in Sydney?
In Sydney, 2019. My cousin, who lives in the States, Lee in Berkeley, he was DJing in Sydney around that time, so seeing him always been a big role model to me as well. So I thought that was cool, and then, you know, throwing Defected, and it was all kind of this perfect storm of like, okay, I think I want to do this and I want to do house music. So that's kind of how the DJing started. And yeah, it just kind of flowed on from there. Obviously COVID hit, but I think I knew pretty early on what I wanted to do in terms of music. I'd set a pretty clear 5-year kind of plan.
Just not what sound.
Just not what sound. I knew I wanted to be house, but as you know, house is very
broad,
diverse, and you know, as I said, I always loved disco as well, and I loved R&B and hip hop. You know, that was pretty much what I listened to up until I was 19, and then house kind of just took over.
I was about 21, so yeah, similar kind of age where it just...
There you go.
I just didn't really know what it was. I was like, it looked like fun. My first rave was Disclosure. And they had just released, is it Settles, the album?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just so fucking good. It was unbelievable.
I mean, I still play so many tracks from that album, Come and Go. Like, just so many amazing records on there. What's my favourite one? There's, still play it, Voices.
Yeah, I'm not very good with names.
No, it's not, I don't think it's it's definitely not their most well-known one, considering how many huge tracks they have, but I absolutely, loved that track and still love playing it. It's a really good tune.
Yeah, it's great. I said the other day that Latch just reached 1 billion downloads. Like, can you imagine?
Right? Billion?
Imagine, yeah, that's a big number.
What's that, like 10,000 Spotify? $10,000 from Spotify?
Yeah. $10 enough for a Tesco meal deal.
That's it.
Sorry, Tesco is a shop in England. Don't know why I said that.
No, I've definitely heard the name Tesco.
Coles meal deal.
It ties in with Costco, yeah.
Yeah, hilarious. It was funny when you were saying about the start of the story before. I actually felt like I had deja vu, and it's because Justin Muscat has a very similar story.
Okay.
His parents, like, if anyone wants to listen to it, there's a whole episode about it, but it was very similar, even down to the piano.
Yeah,
well, it's interesting.
I feel like there's kind of two kinds of DJs, and it's kind of the people that, you know, have been in music from when they were young, played instruments, you know, were in that kind of scene, and then went into DJing. And then there's also the other side of it where, you know, they hadn't really had that background, and then they found DJing and gotten into music in that way, and then started learning instruments and started producing and that kind of thing. So I think that's a lot of those stories will overlap, because I think it's, like, as I said, it was for me, okay, I don't really want to do sport. What else did I do growing up? Music. Okay. It was a bit of a no-brainer to get into. And then, you know, obviously from there, production started coming together and that kind of thing too.
So have you always kind of done it like full time because of your dad, or have you had other career?
Yeah, no, there was plenty going on at the time. When I started, I was working at the airport.
Oh yeah?
So I was doing essentially baggage handling, but, you know, so it was good money for 18, 19. But it just, you know, obviously wasn't going to be something I was going to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, there was definitely pathways and opportunities within the company there. It was just, you know what it's like. You get to a point in a job where you're just fucking depressed all the time. And it's kind of, you know, without getting too much into the mental health side at the moment, I feel like, and I learned this from my dad, and I very much feel it myself, is that when you start to feel depressed heavily, it's kind of, and I can be a little bit spiritual in a sense as well, but to me it's kind of the world, the universe, and I'm not religious, but it's kind of me, some sort of higher power being like, all right, something's got to change.
Yeah.
You got to change something. So
I love you so much already. I was like, we're so on the same page. It's great.
100%.
Yeah, all about the universe. Don't know what it means or anything. I don't read too much into it, but I'm like, that's something's going on.
There's, I mean, I'll tell you a story there that was the seller for me, because I'm always a bit of a skeptic, but this particular story was a seller for me. But on this particular point with work, it was, so I was doing that, DJing on the side. Nothing was really happening there because I was, learning through the party. Me and my roommate spent about $2,000 throwing this party just so I could DJ after I'd still had no idea. 4, 5, 6 months maybe even less. It's probably only a month or two in. Through this party, it was a disaster. Cops came around 10 o'clock. The party started at 9.
House party.
Ooh. Airbnb.
Oh, Airbnb. Oh.
So asking for trouble. But
during COVID too?
No, just before COVID. That would have been an absolute no. But no, just before COVID. And I just wanted to play in front of people. I'd been playing in the kitchen bench in front of my roommate at the time, James Nuku. And he was, we just loved the same music at the same time. So that was the most fun starting out just on the kitchen bench. We'd be, playing for 12 hours on days off work. Or
he DJs too, obviously.
I tried to get into DJ in the start, but he didn't get on board with it as I did, but he was always there, He was my dancer before anyone else. I'd be this side of the kitchen bench, he'd be in front, just, going for it with a fedora on or something, pretending that we were, like Louis Vega or something.
Yeah, you have to get him on stage at the Ivy sometimes.
I will. He's come up with me a few times, not on the Ivy, but with a few events, and it's always special having those people there.
Well, my friend Beck is she runs all the dances there, so I'm sure I can get you a spot on the podium.
I'm sure James would love that. I'm not sure his wife would love it too much, but I'm sure James would love it. But no, so we were doing that. We did that first party. As I said, it was shut down within an hour. We didn't even stay at the Airbnb the night. We just had the shits packed up, left, went back to our apartment. It was pretty sad. But
oh dear, what a way to ruin a night.
Way to throw away, a few $1,000s at that age where, I was not making much at the airport. So it was a fair bit of my savings that I'd lost at that time. So we went, did that, and then I think maybe 5 months later, I got an opportunity through one of my best friend's cousin. His name's James Mina. The cousin's Mikey Mina, who was running Albion Fridays. Mm-hmm. And coincidentally, the person he was running it with, Matt Heineck, Newport. So, massive, as I said, I got into music, house music especially because of Defected. And, here I was meeting the boss of One Hit Agency. No idea who he was at the time.
How old were you at this time?
19. So this was a week before my first public gig. So I'd gone to the venue to check it out, meet him, just, no idea who he was at the time. And then obviously through there, they were the only people really giving me an opportunity at the time, which I'm still forever grateful for. COVID hit. And then so I hadn't played much during COVID, before COVID. COVID hit, was able to kind of just work on stuff a lot then, because it was mostly self-taught. So really in the first year, I hadn't picked it up that well. My mixing wasn't great, song selection wasn't great, ability to read the crowd wasn't great, but I knew I loved it. So I just kind of stuck with it, kept practicing through COVID. And then after COVID finished, that's when the opportunities really started to come. Yeah,
wow. And the Sydney scene was so great, like, at the start of COVID, because everyone was just fucking mad to go out. Like, it was a dying scene, let's face it, because of the lockout laws and everything. And everyone just came out, like, with a vengeance. Like, there was a great atmosphere around when we could eventually dance and stuff.
That's right. It was, I think we'd just taken it for granted for so long. And I think we're starting to again now. But I think we just took it for granted for so long, the freedoms that we had before COVID, that when COVID hit and it was all taken away, by the time it was brought back, everyone was like, let's go. Like, I remember everything was selling out. Everything. When we first came back from COVID, everything was selling out.
Yeah, well, it was funny for me because, like, for years, I was just not in the right job to allow me to go to these kind of events. I was working weekends myself, and then I didn't have really the right friendship group for it, because obviously I'm not from Australia. For a long time it's really hard to like meet people, but now there's a lot of like Facebook groups and Instagrams and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like Lost and Found, Bondi Beach Babes, but I just didn't know about that kind of stuff back then. And then around the time of COVID, like that's when Porrick and I got together, and then we had similar interests in going out. We bought tickets to everything, and then COVID happened. So when COVID opened, for like 12 months, we just had these constant events that we had paid for like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So we had like a whole year, and then that just really got things going for us, you know? And then now we're like very, very, very much into music and going out.
Amazing.
Always liked it when I was younger, but when I was in Australia, I just didn't have the right, like, I don't know, chance or whatever. But yeah, so that's us and so many other people. But then you've got the COVID kids, like the ones who turned 18 during COVID, and they're just not into it.
Yeah, and I think the taste has changed a lot. I think, you know, to quickly touch on what you were saying, in that I think Sydney has a lot of very small niches, which is great, but it's also very hard to find those events if you like that niche and, you know, you're not from here or you're not in the know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something that, you know, as you said yourself, it's a struggle to find. If, you know, you like a certain type of house music, you know, you can't just kind of go on Facebook or Google or whatever and search house music events.
It's really hard. Like,
yeah.
There's lots of different pages, like Resident Advisor and stuff like that, but like it can be quite difficult. It's like when you go on holiday somewhere. We were in Dallas, and I was trying to find any kind of music that we remotely liked to go out for, and we couldn't find anything.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of promoters that kind of oversaturate those pages as well with irrelevant stuff, which, you know, makes it hard for the stuff that you're looking for to cut through.
Well, then it's all like paid marketing, isn't it? So the more money you got, the more presence you're going to be on there. So.
That's right. So it's, you know, everyone kind of gets redirected back to the same thing, even if it's not something that they're looking for. But what was the point we were on after that?
Yeah, sorry, don't ask me. That's my bad. Sorry, I have a really bad habit of just derailing the conversation.
No, not at all. My train of thoughts.
Oh, you said Sydney appetite after COVID.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think with the COVID kids now, I think the taste has changed as well. Like, you know, I was talking to a friend earlier today at the studio, and similar thing. He was talking about someone that he works with, in the, you know, people his age, I think he was saying it was 21 or so, they're not going to clubs anymore. They're, I guess, more educated in what they like, so they're going to things like warehouse parties and bush dwarfs, and they're not going to licensed venues as much. And I think that's obviously tying in with the culture of the music that they're liking at the moment, you know, that very sort of happy trance, happy techno, Marlon Hofstad type of sound. So I think that's one part that's, I guess, taking a little bit away from the clubbing scenes at the moment.
But that's the problem in Sydney. Like, unfortunately, the unlicensed venues are a lot more fun.
Yeah, there's
generally. You've got security guards staring at you, and I understand that, you know, there's a certain way to behave and, you know, what to do and what not to do, but the presence it puts people off.
There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of red tape, and it makes things very hard for promoters. Makes things even harder for festival organisers. You know, you've seen how many festivals have been cancelled. Some festival organisers I've spoken to talk about the costs that they have to pay for a police presence. Yeah, it's enforced by the police.
Dancewise told me the numbers was like crazy.
You're paying, you know, I can't remember the exact figure, so I'm not going to say it, but somewhere around, you know, what you'd be paying for a headliner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just for the police to be there, and it's like, well, if you want to be there and monitor it,
just come along.
Why do I have to pay? You know what I mean?
And then it's obviously reached a point. It's like a vicious cycle. I guess that's how like economies crash. Is that, you know, in order to them to be profitable, for it to be worth their while, they need to put ticket prices up, but the punters have got no money because fucking price of electric and rent are so high. Exactly. It's just a vicious cycle, and then it's really sad.
Yeah.
Because when you go to these events, like any festival, you just look at the crowd. I'm like, if there's that many people that want to go out and dance together, like there's obviously an appetite for it.
There is. There's definitely an appetite for it, and I think the other thing, you know, we're talking about it being a positive, but I think the negative that also popped up post-COVID was a lot of, I don't want to say the word wannabe, but for a lack of a better word, I will. I think a lot of wannabe promoters started popping up and started seeing it as an easy opportunity to make money because everything was selling out. So then it started oversaturating the market and taking away from the good events. And now that, you know, that sort of wave has passed, those great promoters and those great events didn't have as much of a chance to build kind of brand loyalty and, you know, a loyal kind of fan base. So I think that's had a bit of an impact as well.
That's an interesting perspective, to be honest. Never heard anyone say that, but it's probably true.
Yeah. Well, I was working more in, because once I'd left the airport, then I went into a bit more white collar, and then I went into working in hospitality as well. And I definitely saw that working in hospitality, that there was just so many no-name promoters that would come to venues and just want to do an event because they saw it as an opportunity to make a quick bit of easy cash.
And that's the thing, it can be difficult large-scale events, but small-scale events I think are relatively easy to throw, because most bars are not busy enough that they will give you free hire and they'll get the bar to get people through the doors and keep their business going. So then again, like, it does encourage people. Like, so many people say to me, why don't you throw events? Why don't you throw events? I'm like, guys, do you think I don't have enough on my plate? Like, I've barely got enough time as a week. I'd love to, maybe one day, but like, not right now. It's not a priority for me.
It's not easy, and venues are definitely getting more desperate. Like, I've noticed you know, when I was working in that sort of scene, kind of 2022, no venue would give away its Saturday night, because why would you? It was, you know, they had easy money coming in, they took all the door, all the bar, everything like that. And now I see, you know, those same venues giving away their Saturday nights, you know. Yeah,
absolutely.
Because they're just not able to fill them anymore.
Well, Boogie, a pool club, obviously has ceased now because, you know, the crowd dropped off, because also it's a difficult place in the middle of winter.
Yeah, pool club's very seasonal, and, you know, I've had some of my favourite nights at Boogie, and I've absolutely loved Boogie, and sad to see it go. But yeah, it's always tough with pool club and any seasonal venue, because once winter hits...
it's like, but there's a lot of that industry in Sydney in general, like even the boat party industry is mostly obviously over summer, unless you got closed in boat, but generally people just need to batten down the hatches a little bit during winter anyway. And especially now, especially last Saturday night, I was actually, when we saw each other at Ivy, I was surprised to see how busy it was. It wasn't packed, but it was busy, because I was like, it's pissing down with rain, it's the middle of winter, and it's freezing cold, and no one's got any money, and it's like people still go out, you know.
Exactly.
It was good.
Exactly. So there's definitely good signs. And, you know, I think also now everyone's had their post-COVID kind of Europe trip. I think people are starting to kind of come out a little bit more in Sydney now.
Says the one that's about to go to Europe. I'm about to have my first... So it's really funny, because I've obviously spent my life, or, you know, first 21 years of my life in England. So I would go on summer holidays. You don't go and do Europe trips. It's pretty uncommon for people. Maybe... now as you get older, but no one in my friendship group at home ever did that. We just go on your 1 or 2 week holiday. And then I moved here and everyone does these big trips, and I've always been really jealous. But then I have to go home, like I have to go see my family, and for years I would spend all of it, the whole trip, just seeing them. But this is the first time I'm ever actually going to some other places, so I'm super looking forward to it, because I'm actually doing like a Europe trip for the first time.
Tourist in your own continent.
Yeah, exactly. But it's funny, because there's so much of my own country I haven't even seen, and Aussies always say that to me, that I've seen more of their country than they have. I now know Australians that have moved to England, quite a lot of them that I've become friends with over the years have gone and done their gap year over there. And the places I see them going, I'm like, that's absolutely beautiful. And I've never even heard of the place. It's crazy.
Because why would you, right? If, you know, I've saved up money to go on a holiday, I'm not, you know, no offence to Perth, but I'm probably not going to go to Perth.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to go, you know, overseas.
Yeah.
Somewhere that is a little bit more...
It's just different. You just want to go see. I want to go try some new food, see some new places. So you obviously signed to One Hit Agency with Matt.
Yeah.
Has that been the since the get go for you, since you first kind of...
No, that took not a long time, but it took a lot of hustle to get that, and that was something that was part of that 5-year plan that I'd come up with originally. And, you know, I thought all these goals were super unrealistic at the time. But the goals were, you know, get signed to One Hit, play on Defected, play on Gustavo, which was another event that I absolutely loved, release my own music, and play at Ivy. So all these things, I was like, it's not going to happen in 5 years, and it's all happened since. So it's now time to start writing some new ones.
Yeah, that's exciting. And did you do it before the 5 years, or?
Yeah, so I think I did pretty much, because I'm not at 5 years yet.
Okay.
So I think most of it was 3-4 years. But it just kind of showed me the power of, goal setting and, the whole universe manifesting things and that kind of stuff. Is that the way everything's come together has just been
nice,
way too coincidental to be a coincidence. In the, one hit happened, and that's when I started to be able to go full time and quit my jobs and be able to do music full time, because they are doing an amazing job at keeping me busy and, allowing me to have a full time income. They've also, Matt and Spencer, they've hooked me up with some incredible support shows, the Above residency, obviously Defected, all these kinds of things that I was absolutely dying to do. So they've helped me accomplish so many of those goals. And
that's so nice to hear. Obviously, before I spoke to you on Saturday, I think he'd actually left, but I properly met Matt for the first time on Saturday. I'd met him in passing, just like hi, but had like a proper conversation with him, and then eventually met Annabelle and a couple of other of his friends. He was really, really nice.
Incredible guy.
Yeah, it was nice to meet him, actually.
He's the stuff that he's done for me, he hasn't had to do. But, the relationship I have with him is like a big brother. And, same with Tony Venuto, if you've met him. It's obviously they DJ together under Matoni, and, Tony, I took the handover from him at that first gig out at Albion's, and, at the time, I'm ashamed to say this, but I've got to be honest, at the time he showed me where the sync button was, because I never used 3000. I never used CDJs, didn't know how to mix, nothing like that. It was very fresh, and, shout out to Mikey for taking that pun on me, and Matt for not sacking me straight away. Matt and I still laugh about how bad I was at the start.
Oh my God, that's good though. He must have seen something in you to... That's
why I've just got so much gratitude and appreciation for him, because he's really been there since the start, and he's, always been someone that, obviously I've wanted to impress, and to, I guess, finally have achieved that, and to have him in my corner per se is, something that I definitely don't and never will take for granted.
Oh, that's so nice. That's nice. And yeah, a lot of people have had a lot of lovely things to say. It's funny because there's certain people and events and things that are just coming up really often, and I'm not good enough at editing, but I want to make something of just that, everyone talking about the same thing, you know, because there's a lot of themes in it. But it's funny how you saying you thought your 5-year plan was unrealistic, because when Porix decided that he was going to start taking the DJing seriously, he said he wants to play in the Ivy by the end of the year.
There you go. Well, he very well could. You just don't know how things fall together. Like, my best friend Ibby, who he's been best friends through high school, and started DJing a couple of years ago as well. He got an Ivy opportunity quite early, and because a promoter that absolutely loved him was doing an event and booked him, and he's 1000% deserving of that. But these opportunities can come up quicker than you anticipate. If you impress the right people at the right time, he could very well, he's doing your shot, so he could very well impress the right person. There's a promoter in the crowd who wants to do Ivy at the end of the year, and they think of him. It's nothing's unrealistic if you
put your mind to it. And like Bella's story, I only just released it. I haven't promoted it yet, but her story's wild. She was in the right place at the right time, and she's obviously very talented. But again, just like the universe lining up for her, and there was all these full circle moments for her. Like when she decided she wanted to DJ, she was at Hideout, which is on right now, and Sonny Fodera was playing, and then on Above's first birthday, she took the decks from him.
Exactly.
Like, what the fuck?
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that is just like, it's too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. And, this story, this will give you some perspective into what made it really click for me that something with this shit is real. I still haven't figured it out, but, when I was in year 10 at the time, wasn't really playing piano, wasn't into music, was just very much sport. My dad had gone and seen a psychic and said that I was going to have a career in music. And came home and told me, I was like, you know what I mean? Like, psychic, what do they know? Blah, 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 blah. I'd completely forgotten about that. Then once I started getting a little bit of momentum DJing, my best friend who I just mentioned, Ibby, he reminded me of it. Obviously, I told him at the time, but I completely forgot. He's like, "You remember what your dad said to you about, you know, having a career in music?" I was like, "No, what did he say?" He was like, "That's what he said. You know, you having a career in music." I was like, "Okay, that's interesting." And then you throw in the fact that the day I really got into it was going to Defected. The song that really got me going, "I love this music. What is this?" was "Love on the Line" by Kormak. Again, no idea who he was. No idea he was Australian, no idea about any of that. And now Cormac's another figure who's like a big brother, mentor type thing. He books me for his events. He gets me to open for him. He gets me to hand over to him. So it's these crazy little things where it's like way too much of a coincidence to really be a coincidence. That there's always some sort of plan, but you've got to do the work and just follow the signs. Follow the signs, whatever the fuck the universe is telling you, just fucking chase it.
I can tell you that right now, I've followed the yellow brick road a few times. I'm just like, I'm off there doing my thing, you know? It's no good. There's so much I want to say, but I don't want to be a stuck record, so I'll tell you after. Just about some coincidences in this story for me. And again, I'm just like, yeah, there's so much. Pretty much you could just listen to the whole podcast from start to finish, which is long. I've done, I think you're like 27 now. So, yeah, a bit much, but the different connections, even with people that have been over here and talked to me, and then how they somehow link back to myself, and when I've met people and all that kind of stuff, it's all just like
it's just,
I love it. It's like a big game.
It really is a big game, and you just need to know how to play it. And so we were talking about before with, you know, with mental health, is the, you know, I was diagnosed with that when I was 14 with depression and, you know, anxiety and that kind of thing. So I've been dealing with that for, you know, 10 years now. But as I was kind of touching on earlier, if you can kind of view it as a tool and as a way of, you know, your soul or whatever you want to say without getting too spiritual, but if you view it as a way of your soul telling you this isn't what you're meant to be doing, then things seem to change. Like it was in a pretty dark place the last few years in my personal life, made a couple changes, and since then things have just, you know, music's gone better, being healthy again, training again, eating better. And it's just not even, you know, an intentional thing. It's just when I wake up in the morning, that feeling of, you know, wanting to stay in bed and not wanting to do anything and just being down isn't there anymore. It's just, you know, obviously there's days, but it's just once you kind of take those hints, take those signs, and you start to move with it, things just seem to fall into place.
Yeah, that's interesting. So thanks for sharing that with me, by the way. It's nice.
Very big advocate for it. I think more people need to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything, obviously, and tell me how far you want to go, but is this things like in your personal life, or it's just something you've dealt with for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's always been there. And, you know, without getting too into the nitty gritty of the details, there were, you know, certain things I was doing in my personal life, certain decisions I made, certain people I had around me, where, you know, it's nothing against them. They're amazing people, but it just affects your energy in some way, whether you recognize it or not. And it's not until you kind of step outside of, whether it be, you know, those jobs, those friendships, those, you know, whatever they might be, it's not until you kind of step outside of that and then you start feeling better and you're like, okay, maybe that had something to do with it. You know, I'm not a psychologist or a psychologist.
No, I mean, that's like a very good way of describing it. I mean, you do get to a point in your life, like I've had friendships that just dwindle off, you go your separate ways, it's not something you've done, it's not something they've done, you just realise it's not going to be a long-term thing, you know, you're not aligned.
I think, yeah, it's not necessarily feeling down about it, but it's feeling down and then something changes and you start to feel better. And, you know, my dad, there was very much a point, because, you know, my dad grew up in obviously a different time where mental health was not
taboo.
It was taboo, exactly. And, you know, he's suffered with depression his whole life and not really known about it till later. But he said the exact same thing to me a few times, that, you know, it's a catalyst for change, essentially. It's that it's your mind telling you that you've got to change something.
Yeah. It's a good perspective and definitely a good way to kind of explain it, I think.
Which I thought was absolute horseshit for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's not until you kind of see it and experience it yourself that you're like, maybe the old fella has a point.
Yeah.
maybe he has a point. You know, we don't want to listen to our parents, but then more often than not, they prove us right. They prove themselves right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because you're like, why do we always think we know better than them? They're so much older than us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We always want to think we know better. But...
Yeah, it's like when you have someone younger than you trying to tell you, and you're like, shut the fuck up, what do you know? And then it's just, but yet we have no problem doing it to our parents.
No,
it's
not
funny.
at all. Not at all. I know what I'm doing, Mum and Dad. Just.
And would you be someone that like listens to a lot of music when you're in a bad mood or feeling down and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think I got lost for a few years in wanting to only listen to house music. I think there was probably 3 or 4 years there where it was like not listening to anything else, just house music.
Oh, that's intense.
Intense. Which I don't know what it was. If it was a pride thing, I don't know what it was, but it was like I just didn't want to listen to any other genre. It was, you know, it became my identity to a degree. It was like I'm house music through and through.
Yeah.
And then I think Connor Hart. That's right. So then I think once I started kind of, you know, putting that, I guess, pride or ego aside and starting to, you know, listen back to R&B and, you know, hip hop and soul and disco and funk and all these genres that I loved for so many years, then I could kind of get more into touch with how I was feeling, especially if I was feeling down and, you know, just listening to records that would make me, you know, feel a certain way when I was 17 and then listening to them again now and just having that same feeling. And it's like, okay, I miss this. And then it also makes the house music side of things better because, you know, whether it's in production or DJing or just general listening, it helps you kind of identify the characteristics between the different genres and be like, okay, this is why I like this. This is what, you know, it all loops back to what we were talking before as well about production, is that I think being able to really nail and identify my sound recently has not come from listening to house music over and over and over. It's come from going back to listening to soul and R&B and going, what overlaps between these genres and what do I like? And, you know, you start to find that maybe it's similar themes, maybe the vocals sounds a similar way, maybe it's a certain instrument that's used. It's, you know, you start to find those patterns and you're like, and you start to figure yourself out a little bit better.
Interesting. So how much do you have music out at the moment, or is it all in the background?
All in the background at the moment. I released an EP in 2020, so that was like a little COVID project. So got that out, went pretty well, and I think it's very important to get music out early. I think that's when, that's when stuff started to go better for me, is that people start to distinguish you a little bit more from just being, you know, a local DJ, which I still am in the local DJ sphere, but I think that's when you start to stand out a little bit more, when people are like, okay, they're a producer as well. You know, you just get taken that little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
So I think that was a big game changer. And then over the past few years, it's just been trying to improve on that, build on that, so that when I do release again, which I'm planning to be very soon, I'm 1,000% confident in what I'm doing and I can stick to that for a couple of years. If a rebrand or something down the line, then that's a problem for them. But at the moment, it's, you know, I'm not having the same issue as I was the last few years of, all right, one day fucking tech house club banger.
Yeah.
The next day soulful disco record. Like,
yeah, you've kind of
found the exact sound that I want to stick with for the next few years. So it's just
how exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
It's good. And I assume nothing you can share at this point.
I can share a little bit with you. I've just signed on with a manager. And so to have that external clarity of, you know, kind of reaffirming what I'm doing, or the opposite, saying, you know, this is shit, or saying, you know, this is good, this is the direction that I think you should head in, and then being on the same wavelength with that, that's really kind of helped solidify things. So the management side is going to be a lot about, you know, we're looking at doing a bit of a rebrand, probably keep the same name, but just, you know, start a little bit fresher with the ideas that he and I want to implement.
Yeah, that's exciting. And so you obviously signed to one hit agency. An agency is someone who books gigs on your behalf and helps fill your schedule. What does that look like when a manager gets brought into the mix? Is the manager communicating with them and you're just getting informed?
Yeah, so they're kind of working together. Obviously the booking side, as you said, they handle kind of the bookings, my calendar, mostly the negotiation of fees and, you know, bar gigs and things like that to kind of give me a full-time income, which again they've done an incredible job at doing. And then the manager side is more to focus on the brand aspect and the artist aspect and the music aspect and the marketing aspect and promoting me to a level to try and sort of step beyond, you know, doing the support shows, and to hopefully in the next few years kind of really define my project, try to build a fan base around that, and start doing kind of headline shows and that kind of thing. So
so exciting.
it's exciting, and I have a lot of faith in this person. I can't talk about who it is, but you know, they're an industry heavyweight themselves, and very, very confident in their abilities, and they've done everything that I want to do already.
Oh, so how exciting.
If I can follow in half their footsteps, then I'll be very, very happy. So
good. So many people have come here and they're talking about stuff that they want to do, which we can touch on a little bit more in a second. But I love hearing it, because then I'm obviously, as I get to know everyone that's come over has been so nice, had such a great chat with them, and then I'm so invested in their story, and then I'm smiling when I'm seeing their little things, you know, because obviously if people listen to the whole thing, but I'm only putting like snippets of it on Instagram and other social media. So like for me, I've got the whole thing drilled into my head. So it's super cool. What is obviously you had your other 5-year goals.
Yeah.
Without having a proper plan, is there some big ticket items just like bucket list?
Definitely. I think the next 5 years, you know, I'll be 30 in 5 years.
You're so young.
I don't feel it. I guess
I do feel it.
I guess 4 years in DJing will do that to you. I feel a lot older than I am.
Yeah, you do seem quite, like, a lot of people have said it to me throughout my life that I seem like old and wise for my age, and it's a lot to do with my childhood and some other stuff. Kind of had to grow up quicker than most, but it's interesting. You seem like you've really, obviously I've only just met you, but I feel like you've probably found your way a lot in the past couple of years. It sounds like you've had a bit of you learned a lot about yourself.
Yeah, I think
you said to me,
similar to what you said, is you know, kind of always had that growing up. You know, having older cousins and an older sister and an older, you kind of mature a little bit earlier. And you know, obviously personal circumstances can make you mature quicker as well. But I think kind of by this age, you start to really understand yourself a little bit better. You stop trying to pretend to be someone that you're not, and you kind of just focus on who you are and really drill that aspect and work on that aspect.
It's funny when you have those moments, isn't it? When you have these realizations of early 20s, you know, throughout your whole 20s. I think 20s you figure yourself out a lot.
That's 100%. And you know, that's what I was saying about sport, is that, you know, I loved it, but you know, I was doing rugby league and boxing, and I look at, you know, the kind of culture in those sports, and it's just not me. You know what I mean? I was, you know, carrying on like a macho and, you know, like an alpha and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I can be, but at the end of the day, I'm, you know, not sensitive or soft, but I'm just not that kind of character. And I think who I am is a lot more aligned with music and what I'm doing now. And I think it's just kind of how the last few years have panned out, have kind of proven that to myself.
Yeah, and it's funny, and it's nice when you get those moments of like signs or whatever that you are on the right path, you know, and so like you keep going and you're like, okay. And it's not supposed to be easy, you know. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
No, it's, well, I mean, everyone is DJing now, but or everyone's trying to.
But just in anything, whatever you're trying to do, like for example, if being a professional soccer player was that busy, if that was easy, then everyone would be, do you know what I mean?
100%.
Like, there has to be,
you know, it wasn't, you know, necessarily setbacks in sport or anything like that, but it was more mental health, and that you know, it got to an age where I just didn't enjoy it anymore. And I just didn't want to do the training. I was honestly lazy with it, but not, you know, I worked my ass off in this, so it wasn't from a point of laziness, it was more from a point of passion. And playing a character that I really wasn't, you know. I wasn't that testosterone filled 18-year-old dickhead that I look back on and cringe at.
I think if you don't look back and cringe at your early 20s or whatever, then you haven't done it properly. But that's the thing, and I think a lot of people still don't realise that, like, you don't actually have to be unhappy. You know, people get so what's the word, like stuck and in routine and comfortable, and they'd rather just go and do something that they dislike through fear of like upsetting their routine. And just through fear, basically. That's
Yeah.
all I believe it is, anyway.
Yeah.
And then people leave. Like one of my friends, when I changed jobs, he ended up coming with me. Maybe a month after, I was able to get him a job, and he had been at our previous job for 20 years, and he was like, I can't believe I stayed there for so long. And now he's ended up subsequently leaving the place that we worked and moving on, but like no bad feelings, and he's still just so happy that he got out of the last place, because you just get stuck, you know.
It's exactly what we were talking about before, and you know, with your mental health kind of giving you a sign about these things. And as I said, it's happened in jobs, it's happened in sport, it's happened in all these things that I probably stayed in a little bit too long. And then, you know, something happens and you're like, okay, either I need to get out or you get pushed out. And then you're out and you're so much better off for it. So much better off. And you're like, why didn't I just do this earlier? But,
and it's funny as well, because the older you get, the more you know yourself. So now you'll probably be able to recognise those kind of signs a lot earlier.
Definitely.
You know, you wouldn't leave it so long.
Definitely.
Sorry to 180 the conversation, but earlier on you talked about a cousin in America.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about him?
Yeah, he's he was a massive role model for me, always, and still is. You know, Liam he was the piano player growing up, and he was another kind of influence of when I started, you know, to really go, oh, okay, this is cool. You know, I was doing it, didn't love it, but then I was sort of getting a little bit older, 10, 11, 12, saw he was doing it. He was putting, you know, covers on YouTube, and, you know, he was doing Nice and Slow by Usher and like all these songs that I absolutely loved, and they were doing well, and, you know, girls loved him and all the rest. So I was like, oh, I want to be like him. I want to be like Liam. So that that, you know, role model figure has always been there.
A lot older than you?
No, he's probably about, sorry if I get this wrong, Liam, but he's probably about, I think, maybe 7 years older, somewhere around there. Maybe less. It'll take a couple of years.
31 on Monday, actually.
Okay, I think he's around the same. Okay.
Did he have a 30th last year?
No.
Has he ever had a 30th?
Now I'm going to get in trouble. No, I think he's still in his 20s.
Yeah, hilarious.
He's still in his 20s.
All right, so he's late 20s anyway.
Yeah.
And America, so who is he to you? Who's your mum?
So he's my mum's cousin's son.
Okay, second cousin to you.
So second cousin to me.
Nice.
Second cousin to me, and, you know, I've got my first cousins, and I play Oz tag with them. We were talking about Oz tag earlier, and, you know, they're more like my little brothers. You know, they're both younger than me, and, you know, I've got an older first cousin as well who I love. But, you know, it's they're both close to my age. You know, we played footy growing up, so we always had similar interests, hung out a lot.
Has he always lived in America, this guy?
For the last 10 years, yes.
Okay.
So actually now I think he might be in his 30s, because I think he moved over there when he was in his 20s.
It was funny, so when Tommy Trex came over, whenever he was telling a story, he could not remember what year it was, and I called the episode, "What year is this?" So I could call your episode, "How old is he?"
Yeah, how old is he? Liam, chime in, tell us how old you are. No, but he, so then he, as I said, came back to Sydney, did a show on the Hamptons, and I absolutely loved the music he was playing. You know, he started with Al Green, Let's Stay Together, so, you know, 60s, 70s soul. And then, you know, he got into house.
Yeah, right back.
Then he, you know, got into house, Anyway, Duck Sauce, you know, all those kinds of tracks that...
Tune.
Exactly, that, you know, is overplayed to me now, but at the time I'd only heard it once or twice and was like, what's that song? I love that song.
And then hearing it on a boat on Sydney Harbour.
Hearing it on a boat at Sydney Harbour at 18, your cousin's playing it, you know, you with your sister, your best mates, like, it was a really, really good time. So that was another thing that kind of had led me that way. And, you know, our paths have just crossed a lot since. And he's...
Is he DJ full-time?
DJs full-time, producers, he's got a few great tracks out.
I'll have to look him up. I've not heard of him. That'd be cool.
Liam Berkeley on Spotify. I'll send you his Spotify. Yeah. So he's got some amazing tracks out. He's worked with some incredible artists. He's doing fashion over there as well, and he's just. I was over there with him last year, and he just hustles. You know, he's up. He's, you know, going to meetings, whether it's for his clothing, whether it's for production, whether it's on Zoom, he's busy. He's just always active. He's always doing stuff, and you know, that was just such great energy to be around there in LA, because LA can be a bit of a mixing pot of, you either go one way or the other. So
not my cup of tea, LA.
I absolutely love it. I can see why it's not people's cup of tea. It's a fucking shithole.
I would love to go with someone who loves it and to stay with them and be like, right, show me what there is to love.
Yeah.
Because I do believe I could have my opinion changed, but I would never ever go there.
Yeah.
Just like on holiday, pass through by myself if I didn't have good reason again.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's not a tourist friendly place because the touristy spots, Walk of Fame sucks. Santa Monica is nice, but it's not the nicest part of LA. Like, it's when you have someone that, like I had with him, and I'd been there before without him, but, you know, just had suggestions from him, so that helped. But going with him and, you know, getting to really know the ins and outs of the neighborhoods, the good cafes, where to eat, the delis, you know, those little things that you're just not going to get as a tourist.
100%.
That elevated my experience by 1,000.
Yeah.
You know?
I've already forgot his name. What was it?
Liam.
Okay, well, maybe next time you go see Liam, I'll come with you.
Yeah, done. You're invited. No, Liam would love that. Liam would love that. I think just finishing up on Liam there, we did a show together on Glass Island when he was in Australia, so that was very, very special to be able to go back to back with him here.
Similar kind of music then, obviously.
Similar kind of music. He does house, but, you know, same influence. He grew up disco, so like his mum and my mum. My mum essentially had a similar relationship with his mum in that, you know, she's
her auntie.
Who's her cousin.
Oh, who's her cousin?
Who got a lot of, you know, music from her growing up, and
that's so nice.
Exactly. So that's, you know, and I've got a lot of music from him. I got into hip hop from him, and, you know, so he's been a very big musical influence all along. And
when did you play on Glass Island together?
That would have been on a one-hit party, late 2020. Early 2023.
So only last year.
Yeah, only last year. We were very fortunate. It was, you know, not fortunate for the Top Deck guys, but for us, it was raining. So they pushed everyone down for our set. So it was packed and we got to experience that. And that was, you know, just special.
Yeah, that is nice. It's nice to have those moments too. But also, no, there's no panic here. I've got plenty of time. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
I think I've shouted most of the people I need to shout out, right?
Yeah, well, we talked a bit. One thing I was gonna say. You said something about your sister a minute ago.
Yeah.
And I just remembered when we had this realization that you weren't Irish.
Yeah.
And I remembered a few weeks ago you told me you were at your sister's wedding, and I'm pretty sure I responded with, "Oh, that's so nice that she's over here as well." And if I didn't say that, I definitely thought it, and I thought, "What in dear?"
There you go. You mustn't have said it because I did, or maybe I was at her wedding and had a few drinks. And again, that was a beautiful day. Seeing your sister get married, it's, you know, probably the best day of my life.
Did you DJ?
No. There was a few family members asking, but the DJ was doing such an incredible job that, you know, one, I didn't want to. It was my sister's wedding. Two, I don't think my nan would like my music. So I left it to the DJ, who was doing an excellent job.
Hilarious. Any more about your parents being into music you want to?
Yeah, well, I think one part I left out was how they met, which again ties all into music, is they were doing karaoke together.
Oh my God.
And that's how they met. So, you know, very musical, you know, coming up. And as I said, I think I got my music from mum and the performance side from dad. So it's been really, and they're incredible. They're super supportive. I think what a lot of people struggle with in this industry is, you know, their parents not being supportive of what they do. But my parents believe in me, and they've just, you know, they've had my back since day one. I know I can show mum my music and she'll dance no matter what.
Oh, cute.
Even if she hates it, but she'll dance. And
did they ever come to your shows?
No, I think mum and dad went to a couple when I was still playing locally. Because it was easy for them, you know, close by. But
right, where's locally?
Locally, I was playing in the Southern Shire.
Oh, is that where you're from?
Yeah, so
okay.
Around Cronulla area. So they were coming to shows around there, here and there when it was more quiet. But I think I need to get them out for a big one soon.
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't sound like it'll be long till there's a big one. But I was actually thinking a second ago, I think I asked you a question, we derailed it and went somewhere else.
Of course.
Bucket list?
So, I might as well vocalise it, right? Like, that's how things come true.
Yeah, say it loud. Especially
I think in the next 5 years, I want to really sort of be doing the whole international touring. I'd love to obviously do Europe and the US and that kind of thing. So, you know, those are pipe dreams at the moment, but that's definitely something I want to do. And just to be releasing on reputable labels. I'm not going to, you know, throw a specific label out there like Defected or something like that, but I want it to be, you know, one of those big labels where it's like, okay, like, you know, I'm really on the right path here, and then that all kind of ties in together, right? And long term, I think I want to go down the production route more. I love DJing, don't get me wrong, but it is tough. The late nights, which I'm still young enough to enjoy it now, but I'm sure once I start, getting into my 30s and wanting to have family and wanting to have that sort of stuff, I think I'd probably want to be working more, in the studio. But we'll see. Things could change. I could start touring, and I absolutely love it and don't want anything to change from there. So I'm not closed-minded on anything at the moment. It's just kind of like, let's see what happens. And
those two things again are quite interconnected, because you release a good track, people pay you good money to come play it.
That's right. That's right. That's the other side of it, where it's like, they go hand in hand. So who knows? It really, I have my goals in mind, but I'm also not, closed-minded on anything, and quite flexible with stuff now, and just trusting in my team and myself and what the universe has in store, as we've been talking about.
Yeah, so much. Much. I should change the deco in here.
Yeah, I should. No, it's pretty fitting, right?
Yeah, it's
pretty fitting. Pretty fitting.
Yeah, hilarious. I was actually thinking, like, if ever we move at some point, I was like, what am I going to do? Because I've branded it as this. It will have to be a rebrand, even though I'm quite happy with it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, anything else before we finish it up?
I think that might be it. That'll probably be something when I'm on the drive home. Oh, shit,
yeah.
I said that.
Well, that's okay, because pretty much everyone that comes down here is like, can I come back for part 2 later? I enjoyed it, and I was like, yeah, come back whenever you want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we've got plenty to talk about still. That's, but yeah, I'm happy to leave it there.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. And I think you got, probably by the sounds of it, some big things in the pipeline. And I look forward to seeing them come to life.
Thank you very much. As all DJs say, big things coming. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.